this episode, going to talk about page load speeds of a website and does it actually matter? So first, I just want to put yourself in someone else's shoes. If you're on a website trying to consume content or trying to get the information that you need to make a purchase decision, do you like whenever it sits there and loads for 10 seconds, 11 seconds? Chances are you don't, especially with today's attention span. I mean, it's continually getting shorter and shorter and shorter. With that, you only have so much time before someone will leave or bounce from your site before consuming your content. This plays a huge part when it comes to paid advertising, because if you're going to pay for someone to click on your ad and get to your site and they leave before it loads, there's about 100% chance they won't buy off of that click, and so you're just wasting or throwing money out the window. And so on average right now, it's between 6 to 10 seconds website load times, and that's to me that's crazy. It needs to be at a time where it's 3 seconds or under, and I use 3 seconds mainly because that comes from Google. That is pretty much the benchmark that they say you should be at. Anything above that, you start seeing declines in your overall conversion rate. And so, for example, Google has some numbers. They have quite a bit of data on what people are doing on websites. Google Analytics is a widely used tool, and so they get insight into how long pages are taking to load and what performance looks like for every second that's added on. And so when you're looking at mobile, 53% of users will leave if it takes 3 seconds or longer to load. And so if the average is 6 to 10 seconds, there's a lot that we can do as a society to focus on this. And it's crazy because I'll sit in so many meetings where we talk about how can we spend more, or how can we message differently. All that is great, but if they're leaving before the site loads, all of this doesn't mean anything. And so it's something that gets the cold shoulder for so long when it's such a huge opportunity. On top of the 53% of people leaving, when it comes to e-commerce, this is your revenue. This is how your company makes revenue if it can be purchased online. For every second past 3 seconds, your conversion rate drops by 20%. And that is a huge number. I mean, it's so think of it. If you could get 20% more sales just if you're at 4 seconds, if you can get 20% more sales just by having your site load a second faster, chances are you're going to dedicate some time to figuring out how to get that extra second. And so there's been some analysis done, and here's a few companies, pretty big companies that I'm sure you've heard of, but these are some astonishing stats. So looking at Amazon, a 0.1 second increase in load time attributed to 1% decline in sales. Now, 1% doesn't sound huge, but whenever you're a company that big, that attributed to a $1.3 billion lost in sales, all because of 0.1 seconds. You look at Walmart, they were able to improve their load times by 1 second. Overall, that led to a 2% increase in online sales, which attributed to an extra $274 million in revenue, all because of 1 second. Yahoo had a 0.4 second decrease in load time, which led to 9% more traffic, which equates to 600 million extra users. I mean, these are huge numbers just off a little tiny 1 second. I mean, that's huge. And so it just goes to show the volume and numbers that go into the page load speeds. I mean, at the end of the day, it goes back to if someone leaves before the content loads, you have a 100% chance of not converting them. And so page load speeds actually took into account into Google's algorithm and how they rank your website, and because it is important. At the end of the day, Google's main concern is the person searching, can they find the information as fast? Can they find the right information in the quickest amount of time? And that quickest amount of time plays a role here. And so they started using page load speeds as part of their ranking factor. And so when you're looking at the organic channel, across the board organic, the conversion rate is typically in the top when it comes to all the different channels. The time spent on page, organic is such a huge piece. If you can increase your organic traffic, you're going to do a huge impact. You're going to have a huge impact on your overall sales and revenue. And I mean, that's what every business owner looks at. And so knowing that Google is such a huge part of everyone's life and how they search and how they find information, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to appease Google's algorithm or their ranking factors, because if you can just increase your speeds by just a little bit, you can improve your overall organic ranking. And organic ranking is essentially all the different listings that show up under the ads and under the map. And so by focusing on some of those page load speeds, you can improve your ranking and show up higher, delivering more organic traffic, which converts better. And there are a few different places to test, and one, you have Google Page Speed Insights, and you can go there, simply throw in your URL, and it'll spit out how long it takes to load, what is causing, it'll rank A, B, C, D, and F, all the different variables that go into what causes time to increase when page loads happen. And so it can really dissect what you need to focus on. There's a few other ones. The one I typically use is Pingdom, and you can set where you want the server to load from, Australia, LA, New York, and so you can kind of see what page load speeds are based off of where your user base is. There's GT metrics along with web page test. Now, you might be asking what typically attributes to increased load times, and a huge thing that I see is simply images. Have great images. I mean, they'll get handed over. I mean, they look spectacular, but there's no optimization in the file size. And you'll see image sizes that are 2-3 megabytes, and ideally you want them at about 500 kilobytes or smaller. If it's 2 megabytes, basically an image size, the bigger it is, the more time it takes to load that image. And so if you can figure out how to Photoshop or edit your images to where you still have the same quality, or maybe sacrifice just a little bit of quality but get that image size down, you're going to do wonders for your page load speed. And sure, you want beautiful pictures, you want all that looks great, but not at the expense of people leaving before your site loads and not being able to convert them. And so those images are great, but if it means that you need to lower the quality just slightly to improve, get an extra second or two off your page load speeds, you're going to see the results in your sales, in your traffic, in your engagement, and it's just going to do better. Hosting is another big area where people can improve. I know a lot of people, it's super popular, the GoDaddy, the Bluehost, all those, but typically you're on a server that's shared with other people, and they don't have their server optimized for what you're doing. And I know getting a little in the weeds, but there are different hosting platforms out there, and one that I use is Cloudways, and basically I think right now I have 16 different sites on there, and it's literally $10. And so you can get $10 a month. You can use different platforms, but they optimize for WordPress, and that's the reason why I chose them. But we have our own dedicated server that's over in LA, and so no, I'm not sharing it with anyone. And you can pick and choose where you want to deploy your servers. And where that comes into play is if you grow big enough and you have a worldwide or national audience, you can maybe set up your server or multiple servers across different geolocations. And if your server's closer to that person that is looking at your website, it's just going to load faster. And so optimizing images, finding a new hosting, these are all things that, sure, they take a little bit of time, but they're not a huge financial investment. And so if you can just put in a little sweat equity and figure out and do a little bit of shopping and figure out, okay, let's take all these images, let's audit, let's see how big they are, let's shrink them. On top of that, let's maybe see what our web hosting is doing and see if there are different solutions out there. Combining the two together, you're gonna see improvements on page load speeds. And even I don't have a site right now that takes over 2.5 seconds to load, just by optimizing images and going with that hosting that I had mentioned. And so, I mean, that number is a lot smaller than, or a lot shorter amount of time than the average, which I mentioned is around 8 seconds or so. And so these two little things, don't take money out of your company, and they're quick, easy ways. And so especially if you're sending paid traffic to your website, that's again, throwing money out the window. So maybe lower the budget $2 a day to save the money on those clicks that you can reinvest into new hosting, or find someone that can run through the website, download all the images, and just go through them one by one to optimize them and shrink them down a little bit. But yeah, if you end up doing that, you're going to see results, and I can't wait to hear the results. So yeah, go into Google Analytics, take a look at your page load times. Are they on point? Would you wait that long if you were about to make a purchase, or would you wait that long for a site to load? Chances are you're going to see numbers that you alone wouldn't stay at, and so right there's opportunity. So dig into the data, see what your data says, and see where the opportunity is, and just pounce on it and get that page to load faster. Give the people the content they want to see and get them to convert.